Gerald Hayes stood on the bridge of the U.S. Defiant. His weathered face showed the marks of 30 years in space. Through the large window, he watched small ships entering Earth's solar system. These ships carried people who had escaped from planets attacked by the Zarkonians. "How many survived, Diana?" he asked his second-in-command. Lieutenant Commander Diana Wright checked her screen. Her brown hair was pulled back in a tight bun, her uniform perfectly pressed despite being on duty for 18 hours straight. "Less than a third of the people from Proxima Centauri made it out, sir," she replied. "The Zarkonians destroyed their defenses within hours." Hayes nodded slowly. He had expected this. The Zarkonians had been moving through the galaxy for 3 decades, taking over every world they found. No one had been able to stop them. "Any word from the other human colonies?" he asked. "Alpha Centauri fell 3 days ago," Diana said. "Tau Ceti is under attack now. Their distress signals stopped coming 2 hours ago." Hayes walked to the tactical map. It showed the remaining human worlds in blue and Zarkonian-controlled space in red. The red had been spreading faster each year. "And our fleet?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "Scattered, sir, trying to protect evacuation routes. Admiral Chen lost half her ships at the Battle of Epsilon Eridani." The bridge was quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. Earth was next. Communications Officer Alan Becker suddenly straightened in his chair. "Sir, message from Fleet Command. The Zarkonian ships have entered our solar system." The crew turned to Hayes. He was the most experienced officer left in Earth's Navy. If anyone could find a way out of this, it would be him. "How many ships?" Hayes asked. "Over 300, sir," Alan replied, his voice shaking slightly. "Their main battle fleet." Hayes took a deep breath. The Defiant was Earth's newest and most advanced warship, but it was just one ship against hundreds. "Call Dr. Parker to the bridge," Hayes ordered, "and prepare the prototype system." The crew exchanged glances. Everyone had heard rumors about the prototype. A weapon so experimental that most scientists said it wouldn't work. Some said it might tear apart the fabric of space itself. 5 minutes later, Dr. Olivia Parker arrived on the bridge. Her lab coat was wrinkled, and dark circles under her eyes showed she hadn't slept in days. "The prototype isn't ready, Admiral," she said without greeting. "We've never tested it in actual combat. The energy requirements alone could burn out our engines." "Do we have a choice?" Hayes asked quietly. Parker looked at the tactical display, showing the approaching Zarkonian fleet. She shook her head. "No, I suppose we don't." Hayes turned to address his crew. "Listen carefully. We're the only ship that can intercept the Zarkonian fleet before they reach Earth. Our mission is to buy time for the civilian evacuations and to test the prototype weapon." "Sir," Tactical Officer Nicholas Jordan spoke up, "even with the prototype, we're still one ship against hundreds." Hayes nodded. "I know the odds, Nick. I'm not asking anyone to die needlessly. But if we don't try this now, there won't be a human civilization left to save." The crew straightened in their seats. They had all seen what happened to worlds conquered by the Zarkonians. "Set course to intercept the enemy fleet," Hayes ordered. "All hands to battle stations. Dr. Parker, begin powering up the prototype." As the Defiant's engines hummed to life, Hayes looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the most powerful empire the galaxy had ever seen was coming to destroy his world, and all that stood in their way was one ship with an untested weapon and a crew willing to risk everything. The battle for humanity's survival was about to begin. The U.S. Defiant moved through space toward the approaching Zarkonian fleet. Everyone on board knew they were outnumbered. The ship was designed to be part of a larger battle group, not to fight alone against hundreds of enemy vessels. "Distance to enemy fleet?" Hayes asked, his voice steady despite the tension. 30 minutes at current speed, sir," Diana replied. "Their advanced ships have already detected us." Dr. Parker worked at her station, running final checks on the prototype system. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel, making adjustments to the power flow. "Admiral, I've managed to increase the stability of the antimatter containment field," she said, "but I still can't guarantee it will work as designed." Hayes nodded. "Just do your best, Doctor. That's all any of us can do today." The Admiral called up the ship's communication system. "This is Admiral Hayes to all hands. You know our mission. We are the first line of defense for Earth. The prototype weapon we carry may be our only advantage against the Zarkonians. I won't lie to you. Our chances are slim. But every minute we keep the enemy occupied gives our people more time to evacuate. It has been my honor to serve with each of you." After signing off, Hayes turned to Diana. "Status of our defensive systems. Shields at maximum. All weapons charged and ready," she replied. "Engineering reports the engines are operating at 110% of rated capacity." Hayes smiled slightly. Chief Lewis always did know how to squeeze extra power out of his engines. The bridge crew continued their preparations in focused silence. Each person knew their role for the coming battle. Many had served with Hayes for years and trusted his leadership, even in this desperate situation. "Sir," Alan called from communications, "we're receiving a transmission. The Zarkonians are hailing us." Hayes straightened his uniform. On screen, the main view screen flickered to life, showing the alien commander. Grand Marshal Kivar had gray-blue skin and 4 yellow eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on his face. His uniform was adorned with medals and symbols of conquered worlds. "I am Grand Marshal Kivar of the Zarkonian Empire," the alien said through the translator. "Your world will be incorporated into our dominion. Lower your shields and prepare to be boarded." Hayes looked directly at the screen. "This is Admiral Gerald Hayes of Earth. We respectfully decline your offer." Kivar's upper eyes narrowed. "One ship cannot stand against our fleet, human. Surrender now, and your people will be permitted to live as subjects of the Empire." "We've seen how your Empire treats its subjects, Marshal," Hayes replied calmly. "We prefer to make our own choices." "Then you choose extinction," Kivar stated. "No species has successfully resisted the Empire. Your defiance is pointless." Hayes didn't respond immediately. Instead, he looked at Dr. Parker, whom nodded to indicate the prototype was ready. "Perhaps," Hayes finally said to the Zarkonian, "but we'll take a lot of your ships with us before that happens." He signaled Alan to cut the transmission. 20 minutes to weapon range," Nicholas reported from Tactical. Hayes turned to Dr. Parker. "Is the prototype ready, Doctor?" She took a deep breath. "As ready as it will ever be. The quantum displacement field should activate on command, but remember, we can only maintain it for a limited time before our power systems overload." "Understood. We'll make every second count." Hayes turned to Diana. "Prepare Maneuver Omega. We'll punch straight through their forward line and hit their command ship." Diana looked surprised. "Sir, that's extremely risky." "Which is why they won't expect it," Hayes replied. "The Zarkonians have conquered hundreds of worlds without serious resistance. They expect us to run or try to hold position. They don't expect us to attack." The tactical display showed the enemy fleet spreading out, preparing to surround the lone human warship. 10 minutes to contact," Nicholas announced. Hayes settled into his command chair. "All hands, prepare for combat." Grand Marshal Kivar stood on the command deck of his massive flagship. The massive vessel was 3 times the size of the human ship approaching them. Weapons covered its hull, each powerful enough to destroy a small city. Around him, Zarkonian officers monitored their screens and prepared for what they saw as a minor skirmish. "Tactical analysis of the human vessel," Kivar demanded. His tactical officer, Sub-Commander Nextar, studied the readings. "Single warship, designated U.S. Defiant according to our intelligence. Latest human design, but nothing our shields cannot handle." Kivar's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, showing his contempt. "They send one ship to face us. Have they accepted defeat so easily?" "Perhaps it is a diplomatic vessel coming to offer surrender terms," suggested his second-in-command. No, Kivar said. The human admiral did not seem ready to surrender. Scan that ship more thoroughly. Nextar adjusted the sensors. After a moment, he looked up with confusion. Grand Marshal, I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the human vessel. Their power signature doesn't match any known human configuration. Explain, Kivar demanded. They appear to be channeling massive amounts of energy through their main systems, almost as if. Nextar paused, rechecking his readings, almost as if they're preparing to overload their engines. A suicide attack. Kivar considered this possibility. Such desperation is not unknown among species facing defeat. I don't think so, Grand Marshal. The energy pattern is too controlled, too directed. They're preparing something else. Kivar walked to the tactical display. 300 Zarkonian ships moved in perfect formation, preparing to surround the lone human vessel. The Defiant was heading straight toward them, making no attempt to hide or evade. Their course will bring them directly toward our position, Nextar noted. For the first time, Kivar felt a flicker of unease. In 3 decades of conquest, he had never seen a single ship charge directly at the center of the Zarkonian fleet. Signal all ships, he ordered. Stop that vessel before it reaches our position. Use moderate firepower only. I want prisoners to interrogate about this strange energy reading. Throughout the Zarkonian fleet, weapons powered up. Hundreds of energy beams lanced through space toward the Defiant. Back on the human ship, Nicholas called out, "Enemy weapons fire incoming." Hayes remained calm. Evasive pattern delta. Shields at maximum. The Defiant twisted and turned, avoiding many of the energy beams, but some found their mark. The ship shuddered under the impact. Shields at 82%, Diana reported. Maintain course, Hayes ordered. Dr. Parker, status of the prototype. Olivia Parker's face was illuminated by the blue glow of her console. Antimatter containment field is stable. Quantum generators at 95% capacity. 2 minutes until we can activate the prototype. The ship rocked again as more Zarkonian weapons fire hit their shields. Shields at 70%. Diana called out. Hayes studied the tactical display. The Zarkonian ships were adjusting their positions, trying to form a tighter net around the Defiant. They're not using full power, Nicholas observed. They could hit us much harder. They want to capture us, Hayes replied. They're curious about our energy readings. Their curiosity works in our favor, Dr. Parker said. If they destroyed us immediately, they'd never learn what we're capable of. The Defiant continued its charge toward the heart of the Zarkonian fleet. On the enemy flagship, Kivar watched with growing concern. The human vessel is still coming, Nextar reported. Their shields are holding better than expected. Increase firepower, Kivar ordered. I don't like this. As the Defiant drew closer to the center of the Zarkonian formation, Dr. Parker looked up from her console. Admiral, the prototype is ready. Quantum displacement field can be activated on your command. Hayes nodded. All hands, secure for extreme maneuvers. Dr. Parker, prepare to activate on my mark. The Defiant plunged deeper into the Zarkonian formation, surrounded now by enemy ships on all sides. It was exactly where Hayes wanted to be. The Defiant shook as enemy fire struck its shields. Warning lights flashed across the bridge, but Hayes remained focused. They had reached the center of the Zarkonian formation, exactly where they needed to be. Shields at 53%, Diana reported. We can't take much more of this. Hayes turned to Dr. Parker. It's time. Activate the prototype. Olivia Parker took a deep breath. This was the moment 3 years of research would either save humanity or fail completely. She placed her hand on the biometric scanner. Activating quantum displacement field in 3, 2, 1. She pressed the final control. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a low hum filled the ship, rising in pitch until it became almost painful. The lights on the bridge flickered and dimmed. Power drain exceeding safety limits, Nicholas called out. Maintain all systems, Hayes ordered. Dr. Parker. The field is forming, she said, watching her screens intently. Quantum particles are responding exactly as predicted. Outside the ship, space itself began to warp. The Defiant's outline became blurry, as if viewed through water. The ship seemed to shift slightly, appearing to be in slightly different positions at the same time. On the Zarkonian command ship, alarms blared. Sub-Commander Nextar stared at his readings in disbelief. Grand Marshal, the human vessel is. It's violating normal physics. Kivar rushed to the tactical station. Explain. It's generating some kind of field that's affecting space-time around it. Nextar said, his voice shaking. Our sensors can't lock onto its exact position. It appears to be in multiple places simultaneously. Impossible, Kivar growled. Target all weapons on their last known position. Throughout the Zarkonian fleet, weapons officers tried to lock onto the Defiant, but their targeting systems couldn't resolve the ship's exact location. Back on the Defiant, the bridge was bathed in an eerie blue light. Outside the viewports, space seemed to ripple and flow. It's working, Dr. Parker whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. The quantum displacement field is stable. We exist in multiple probable states simultaneously. Hayes allowed himself a brief smile. Can we use weapons? Yes, Parker replied. Our weapons should actually be more effective now. Each shot will manifest across multiple probability states, making them almost impossible to defend against. Hayes turned to Nicholas. Target the nearest Zarkonian cruiser. Main weapons only. Nicholas entered the targeting commands. Target locked, I think. The targeting system is having trouble with our own displacement field. Fire anyway, Hayes ordered. The Defiant's main cannon discharged. But instead of a single energy beam, multiple beams seemed to emerge from slightly different positions, all converging on the Zarkonian cruiser. The enemy ship's shields, designed to handle conventional attacks, failed immediately. The beams struck the hull from multiple angles simultaneously, tearing the vessel apart. Direct hit, Nicholas announced, surprised. Enemy vessel destroyed. Hayes leaned forward. Target their command ship next. Nicholas swung the weapons around, aiming at the massive Zarkonian flagship. On that flagship, chaos was spreading. Kivar watched in disbelief as one of his cruisers exploded. What happened? He demanded. The human weapon, Nextar replied, stunned. It struck from multiple vectors simultaneously. No shield can defend against that. Evasive maneuvers, Kivar ordered. All ships maintain distance from the human vessel. But the Zarkonian ships, packed tightly in formation, couldn't move quickly enough. The Defiant fired again, its quantum-enhanced weapons striking another enemy vessel with devastating effect. Sir, Diana reported to Hayes, the Zarkonians are trying to scatter. They can't target us effectively. Hayes nodded. Continue firing. Target their larger ships first. Dr. Parker monitored her station carefully. Admiral, the quantum field is stable, but our power consumption is enormous. We have perhaps 15 minutes before systems begin to fail. Then we'll make those 15 minutes count, Hayes replied. Target the next vessel. The Defiant continued its attack, becoming a ghost ship that the mighty Zarkonian fleet couldn't touch. The blue glow of the quantum field spread throughout the Defiant, making the ship look ghostly even to its own crew. Through the viewports, the stars seemed to blur and shift as reality itself bent around them. 7 Zarkonian vessels destroyed, Nicholas reported, his voice filled with amazement. 3 more heavily damaged. Hayes nodded, keeping his expression calm despite the success they were having. Continue targeting their command ships. We need to disrupt their chain of command. The Defiant moved through the enemy fleet like a phantom. When Zarkonian ships fired at it, their weapons passed through empty space where the human ship appeared to be but wasn't. Meanwhile, the Defiant's weapons struck with impossible accuracy from multiple angles at once. On the Zarkonian flagship, Grand Marshal Kivar watched in growing horror as his perfect formation fell into chaos. "What is happening?" he roared. "How can one ship do this?" Nextar's hands trembled as he worked his controls. The human vessel seems to exist in multiple states of reality simultaneously. Our weapons cannot hit what isn't fully in our dimension. That's impossible. Kivar slammed his fist on the console. Nothing can manipulate quantum states on a scale that large. "The humans have done it," Nextar said quietly. "They've weaponized quantum physics." Another explosion rocked the flagship as the Defiant's weapons found their mark. Damage reports flooded in from across the vessel. "Shields failing." An officer cried out. "Hull breach on decks 7 through 12. Kivar had never faced defeat before. In 3 decades of conquest, no species had ever seriously challenged Zarkonian military might. Now, a single human ship was tearing through his fleet. Back on the Defiant, Dr. Parker monitored the prototype system with growing concern. Warning lights flashed across her console. "Admiral, we have a problem," she called out. "The power draw is increasing beyond predicted levels. The quantum field is becoming unstable." "How long can we maintain it?" Hayes asked. 10 minutes, maybe less," Parker replied. "After that, our systems will overload." Hayes considered their options. They had done significant damage to the Zarkonian fleet, but hundreds of enemy ships remained. Once the quantum field failed, the Defiant would be vulnerable again. "Sir," Diana called out, "I'm detecting unusual movement in the enemy fleet. Several of their ships are turning away." Hayes studied the tactical display. "They're regrouping, trying to establish a new formation away from us." Nicholas looked up from his station. "No, sir. I think they're retreating." The bridge crew fell silent. The Zarkonians had never retreated from battle before. "Confirm that," Hayes ordered. Diana worked her console. "Confirmed, sir. At least 30% of the enemy fleet is breaking formation and moving away from Earth. Their vectors suggest they're heading for the system's edge." A tired smile crossed Hayes' face. "They don't understand what's happening, so they're falling back to regroup." "Sir," Nicholas said, "should we pursue?" Hayes shook his head. "No. Our priority is to protect Earth. Besides, the prototype won't last much longer." As if to emphasize his words, the ship shuddered violently. The blue glow flickered, dimming momentarily before brightening again. "Power fluctuations in the quantum field," Dr. Parker reported. "We're losing stability faster than expected. 7 minutes remaining at most." Hayes made his decision. "Target their flagship. If we can take out Grand Marshal Kivar, it might disrupt their entire command structure." Nicholas locked weapons on the massive Zarkonian command ship. Target acquired. Firing. The Defiant's main weapons discharged again, the energy beams splitting and multiplying as they passed through the quantum field. They struck the Zarkonian flagship simultaneously from 12 different angles. On the enemy vessel, Kivar was thrown to the deck as explosions tore through his ship. Smoke filled the bridge and emergency alarms blared. "Damage report," he demanded. "Critical systems failing throughout the ship," Nextar replied, coughing in the smoke. "Weapons offline. Engines damage. We cannot maintain command functions." For the first time in his life, Kivar felt fear. His invincible armada was being defeated by a single human vessel using technology the Zarkonians couldn't understand. He made the decision that would change the course of galactic history. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Retreat. We must withdraw and reassess." Throughout the Zarkonian fleet, commanders received the unprecedented order to retreat. Many hesitated, unable to believe that their mighty empire was falling back from a single enemy ship. Some questioned if the order was genuine. "Grand Marshal, several ships are not responding to the retreat order," Nextar reported, clutching his injured arm. Kivar's 4 eyes narrowed with rage. "Repeat the order with my personal authentication code. Any commander who does not comply will face execution." The threat worked. Across the battlefield, The remaining Zarkonian vessels began turning away from Earth, their engines glowing as they accelerated. On the Defiant, the crew watched in amazement as the enemy fleet broke formation and began to scatter. "They're really retreating," Diana said, her voice filled with wonder. "I never thought I'd see this day." Hayes remained focused. "Don't celebrate yet. How many enemy ships are still combat-capable?" Nicholas checked his readings. "Approximately 220, sir. We destroyed or disabled about 80, but they still outnumber us significantly." "And they'll be back," Hayes said quietly. "Once they understand what happened here, they'll develop countermeasures." The ship shuddered again, more violently this time. The blue glow of the quantum field flickered wildly, and several control panels sparked. "Admiral, we're losing the field," Dr. Parker called out, her fingers flying over her console. "Power systems are overloading faster than I can compensate." "How long?" Hayes asked. 3 minutes, maybe less," Parker replied. "When it fails, the energy backwash will likely disable most of our systems." Hayes made a quick decision. "Target as many retreating vessels as we can before the field collapses. Focus on their engine sections. We want to strand them, not destroy them." The Defiant turned, bringing its weapons to bear on the fleeing Zarkonian ships. With each shot, more enemy vessels lost propulsion, drifting helplessly in space. On the Zarkonian flagship, Kivar watched his retreat turn into a rout. "The human vessel is targeting our engines," Nextar reported. "They're stranding our ships in this system." "Clever," Kivar admitted grudgingly. "They know they can't destroy our entire fleet, so they're maximizing their advantage while they can." Another hit rocked the flagship. "Our main engines are hit. Switching to auxiliary power." Kivar gripped his command chair. For the first time in his career, he found himself respecting an enemy. "Who is commanding that human ship?" "Intelligence identifies him as Admiral Gerald Hayes," an officer replied. "Remember that name," Kivar said. "This isn't over." Back on the Defiant, systems were beginning to fail. The blue glow was pulsing erratically, and the ship's frame groaned under the stress. 1 minute to field collapse, Dr. Parker announced. "All power systems are reaching critical levels." Hayes turned to Diana. "Begin shutdown procedures. Divert all non-essential power to shields and life support." "Sir," Nicholas called out, "the remaining Zarkonian vessels are accelerating. They're making a run for the jump point at the edge of the system." Hayes nodded. "Let them go. We've done what we came to do." The quantum field flickered one last time, then vanished completely. The sudden change sent power surges through every system on the ship. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks, and the lights failed, leaving only emergency illumination. "Damage report," Hayes called out as the ship stabilized. "Main power offline," Diana replied, reading from her backup systems. "Engines disabled. Weapons systems non-functional. Communications limited to short range only." Dr. Parker looked up from her damaged console. "The prototype is completely burned out, Admiral. The quantum generators are fused." Hayes nodded, accepting the news. "And the Zarkonians?" "Continuing to retreat," Nicholas confirmed. "About 60 of their ships are stranded in system without propulsion. The rest are heading for the jump point." For the first time since the battle began, Hayes allowed himself to relax slightly. He looked around at his crew. Tired, some injured, but all alive. "Send a message to Earth," he ordered. "Tell them the Zarkonian fleet has been turned back." A cheer erupted on the bridge. The impossible had happened. A single human warship had forced the mighty Zarkonian Empire to retreat. As the celebration continued around him, Hayes looked out at the stars. He knew this was only the beginning. The Zarkonians would return, better prepared next time. But today, humanity had proven they could be defeated. Today, hope had been born. The U.S. Defiant drifted in space, its systems slowly coming back online as repair crews worked around the clock. From the outside, the ship looked badly damaged. Scorch marks covered its hull, and several sections were exposed to space, sealed off by emergency force fields. On the bridge, Admiral Hayes reviewed damage reports with his officers. The cost of their victory had been high. The prototype quantum displacement system was completely destroyed, its components fused into useless lumps of metal. Life support is stable now, Diana reported. Engineering has restored power to most decks, but the engines will take at least a week to repair. Hayes nodded. And our communications? Short range only. Alan replied from his station. We can talk to Earth, but not much further. The Admiral looked at the tactical display, which showed the remains of the battle. Dozens of Zarkonian ships drifted powerless in space, abandoned by their retreating fleet. Earth ships were now approaching these disabled vessels, preparing to board them. What's the status of the stranded enemy ships? Hayes asked. Nicholas checked his readings. Most have minimal life support functioning. Their crews are alive but contained. Earth Defense Forces have already captured 3 vessels. Dr. Parker entered the bridge, looking exhausted. She had been working nonstop since the battle ended, trying to salvage what she could from the prototype system. Doctor, Hayes greeted her. Any good news? She shook her head. The quantum generators are beyond repair. The energy feedback destroyed the entire system. She placed a small, twisted piece of metal on the console. This was the main control node. It's completely melted. Can we rebuild it? Hayes asked. Eventually, Parker replied. But it will take months, maybe years. We need to redesign the power distribution system to handle the quantum field more effectively. Before Hayes could respond, Alan called out from communications. Sir, incoming transmission from Earth. It's Fleet Admiral Wilson. On screen, Hayes ordered. The main view screen flickered to life, showing the face of Fleet Admiral Peter Wilson, the highest-ranking officer in Earth's defense forces. His expression was a mixture of disbelief and joy. Gerald, Wilson said, using Hayes' first name, I still can't believe what I'm seeing. You actually drove them back. Hayes nodded modestly. It was a team effort, sir. Dr. Parker's prototype worked better than we could have hoped. The world is calling it the miracle of Sol, Wilson said. News is spreading throughout human space. The refugees are celebrating in the streets. It's not over, Hayes cautioned. The Zarkonians will be back, and next time they'll be prepared for our technology. We know, Wilson agreed, his expression turning serious. But you've given us something we haven't had in years, time and hope. The Zarkonians have never been defeated before. Now every conquered species in the galaxy knows they're not invincible. He leaned closer to the camera. We're already receiving transmissions from other worlds. The subject planets are rising up against the Zarkonians while their fleet is in disarray. Hayes hadn't considered this possibility. For 3 decades, the Zarkonians had seemed unstoppable. Their empire had grown without resistance because no one believed they could be fought. Now, a single battle had changed that perception. We need to help these resistance movements, Hayes said. Share what we've learned about fighting the Zarkonians. Wilson nodded. Already happening. We're sending data packets to every world with communication capability. But we also need to prepare for the Zarkonians' return. They won't make the same mistakes twice. Neither will we, Hayes promised. Dr. Parker is already working on improvements to the quantum displacement technology. Good, Wilson said. As soon as the Defiant is capable of movement, bring her home. Earth wants to thank her crew properly. After the transmission ended, Hayes turned to look at his bridge crew. These men and women had faced impossible odds and somehow survived. More than survived, they had changed the course of history. You heard the Admiral, Hayes said. Let's get this ship moving again. As repair crews continued their work, Hayes walked to the viewport and looked out at Earth in the distance. For the first time since the Zarkonians had appeared in human space, he allowed himself to feel real hope. The battle was over. The war was just beginning. But now, humanity knew they could win. 2 weeks after the battle, Admiral Hayes stood in the rebuilt Fleet Command headquarters on Earth. The large chamber was filled with military officers, government officials, and scientists. Through the tall windows, he could see the city beyond. People were returning to their homes now that the immediate threat had passed. Hayes stepped up to the speaking platform. The room fell silent as Council Chairwoman Elizabeth Cameron introduced him. "Ladies and gentlemen, the hero of Earth, Admiral Gerald Hayes." Hayes felt uncomfortable with such praise. He cleared his throat and began his report. "The Zarkonian fleet has withdrawn to their core territories," he said. "Our long-range scouts report they are regrouping and repairing their ships. We estimate we have 3 to 6 months before they attempt another invasion." A council member raised his hand. "And the prototype weapon? Can we equip more ships with this technology?" Hayes glanced at Dr. Parker, who sat in the front row. "The prototype was destroyed during the battle. Dr. Parker believes it will take at least 2 years to build another working system." Worried murmurs spread through the room. Hayes continued before panic could set in. "However, we've learned valuable information from this encounter. The Zarkonians can be defeated. Their ships have weaknesses we can exploit. And most importantly, they feel fear, just like we do." He gestured to a large display showing a map of known space. Red dots marked Zarkonian-controlled worlds. Blue dots showed human colonies. Yellow dots had begun to appear, marking worlds where rebellions had broken out. "In the 2 weeks since our victory, 27 subjugated worlds have risen against their Zarkonian overlords. The empire that seemed unstoppable is now fighting battles on multiple fronts." Chairwoman Cameron stepped forward. "What do you recommend, Admiral?" "We need to build more ships," Hayes said firmly. "Not just warships, but fast courier vessels to maintain contact with resistance movements. We need to share technology, coordinate attacks, and disrupt Zarkonian supply lines." He pointed to specific areas on the map. "If we can maintain pressure here, and here, we can keep them off balance while we develop more advanced weapons." The council members nodded in agreement. For the first time, they were discussing strategy for winning a war, not merely surviving one. As the meeting continued, Dr. Parker quietly left the chamber. Hayes noticed and followed her out to a balcony overlooking the city. "You slipped away," he said, joining her at the railing. Parker smiled tiredly. "I've never been comfortable with large crowds or political discussions." "They'll want you to build more prototype weapons," Hayes said. "I know." She looked out at the city lights coming on as evening approached. "I've already started designing the next version. It should be more stable, with better power management." "Will it be ready in time?" Parker shrugged. "Science doesn't work on military timetables, Gerald, but I'll do my best." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching ships moving through the sky above the city. "They're calling you the hero of Earth," Parker said eventually. Hayes shook his head. "We all did our part. The Defiance crew, your scientific team, even the civilian ships that evacuated the colonies." "Still," Parker insisted, "what you did was remarkable. 1 ship against hundreds. No one else would have attempted it." "We had no choice," Hayes replied simply. "There's always a choice," Parker said. "You chose to fight when others would have surrendered." Before Hayes could respond, Diana approached from the doorway. "Admiral, they're ready for you inside. The Council wants to discuss fleet deployments." Hayes nodded. "I'll be right there." As Diana left, Hayes turned back to Parker. "Will you join us? Your input would be valuable." Parker hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, this isn't just about science anymore. It's about survival." They walked back toward the council chamber together. Outside, the stars were becoming visible in the evening sky. Somewhere out there, the Zarkonians were planning their return. But for the first time in decades, humanity wasn't simply waiting for the end. They had hope now. A single warship had brought the mighty Zarkonian Empire to its knees, and the legend of the U.S. Defiant would inspire resistance across the stars. The war had only just begun.